Spain has once again become the center of Europe's coronavirus crisis, not for its infection numbers this time, but for GDP figures. It reported one of the bloc's earliest outbreaks and imposed strict lockdowns in March. Although partially lifted in May, the measures have dragged Spain into a deep recession, with the economy shrinking 18.5% in the second quarter.
The consequence of that health emergency, of that strict lockdown, is precisely the data we have received today of an unprecedented fall of GDP in the second trimester of this year. That moment has passed, and now we have to focus on that recovery.
France, Germany and Italy have also reported double-digit contractions. In total, the Eurozone economy shrank 12.1%. It's the largest quarterly decline on record and follows a 3.6% contraction in the first 3 months of the year. Consumer prices ticked up 0.4% in July, compared with 0.3% the previous month. And unemployment rose 1 percentage point to 7.8% in June, as another 200,000 people lost their jobs. EU leaders have agreed on a more than $2 trillion aid package to help economies ravaged by the pandemic. It includes a recovery fund of more than $880 billion, which members will raise jointly from capital markets. But economists say none of that stimulus will be felt until next year.
We have seen this kind of V-shaped recovery, but I think from now on, we'll see that the speed of recovery will slow down massively, because what we are seeing is that global demand is shrinking, and we'll see is further pressure on the labor market. The worst is behind us, but the recovery will be so slow that it will still feel quite painful.
A recent spike in COVID-19 infections, fueled partly by the resumption of international travel, is darkening even that outlook. In Spain, an already bad summer tourism season has taken a turn for the worse after the UK imposed a 14-day quarantine on arrivals from the country.
There's many European countries whose number of cases is going up again, and we want to do everything we possibly can to protect people here and protect people from that wave reaching our shores.
Economists believe it will take at least 2 years for Europe's economy to reach pre-COVID-19 levels. And ongoing tourism woes mean any rebound could be weaker than expected. Sibel Karkus, TRT World.
For more on this, Mario Holzner joins us now from Vienna. He's the Executive Director at the Vienna Institute for International Economic Studies. Welcome to Money Talks, Mario. Now, grim GDP figures coming out of the Eurozone and the wider EU. Were they better or worse than you had expected?
I think maybe even a slightly bit better than what was expected, but overall, it was clear that it will be something like a double-digit drop in the second quarter in terms of GDP.
And this was all because of the coronavirus lockdowns that were implemented, weren't they?
That's clearly an issue. Different factors are responsible for the severity and of the drop in GDP, because you have quite a range going from around, 10%, like in Germany, year on year, all the way to 22% in Spain. And the reason is the severity of the lockdown. That's again related also to the cases, the number of cases, and also to the way how the industry structure looks like. Do you have a lot of tourism or not? So these are some important factors that make a difference.
Now, let's look at the countries that have been the worst affected by the health crisis, nominally Italy and Spain. They're also the countries that suffered the bigger hits to their GDP, and they have less spending power, I guess, to really stimulate their economies out of this economic crisis. How can they help their economies recover then?
It's indeed a huge problem. They have been suffering already a lot from the global financial crisis. So for Italy, this is almost like the fourth recession within a decade. And there is a lot to do. Financing short-term labor schemes and similar help to fight unemployment. But we will also most likely see a huge wave of insolvencies in autumn. So a lot will have to be done with recapitalizing important industries, but all the way down to small shopkeepers and so on. So huge need for fiscal stimulus and recapitalization of the private sector.
And part of the hope to help these economies such as Italy and Spain was that unprecedented recovery package that EU leaders agreed on last week, worth close to $900 billion. But many people say these countries won't see a euro of that aid until next year. How important is it that EU leaders and parliaments really push this recovery package through so that perhaps the money can be distributed sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I would like to say that in general, it is important that the decision was made to provide these countries that are particularly hard hit with an outlook of support, which is substantial. Now, economists would have hoped for a much larger package. The parliament had a suggestion of a 2 trillion package, but nevertheless, this is still a lot of money. But as you rightly said, the question is how quick can money be dispersed? And while certainly some money can be already dispersed by the end of this year, large chunk will only be able to be financing projects next year. Nevertheless, I would say it is an important mass psychological element, and we should not forget economics, mass psychology is important. And so expectations of the private agents will be improving, and that again helps with consumption, with investment and the like.
Okay, Mario Holzner from the Vienna Institute for International Economic Studies. Thank you again for joining us on the program.